I can't see anyone in the chat, so I just need to go with it.
Yeah.
So that's it streaming now anyway. I'll have one last look at the chat list, see if I can see names. Nope. Okay, we'll just need to minimise that and hope for the best.
Make sure you mute your Twitch.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is muted. Okay, hi everyone, how you doing? I can't get a user list up on Twitch, so I've actually got no idea if there's anyone there at all, or if I'm talking to myself. But hey ho, I can talk to myself. So if you're there, thank you for joining me for a little demonstration of NPC Engineer. It's hosted tonight by Fantasy Grounds College, and later on you'll hear his voice every now and again. He'll maybe even say hello just now.
Hello.
And he'll help out. If there's any questions in the chat, he'll relay them to me. And if I miss something, he'll be quick to point me back in the right direction so that everyone knows what we're up to. So, will I just jump straight into demonstrating NPC Engineer then later on, or will we any other chat?
I think you're good.
Yep, okay. So, when you first open up NPC Engineer, this is the screen that you're presented with. If you've been using an earlier version, you'll see some changes to menus, different names, but pretty much the same functions. Pretty much, I would say the first thing you want to do when you enter NPC Engineer is start a new project, or load a project if you're on your way back you've been before. So, File, that's not that at all, it's Engineer Suite, it's something I moved about. So Engineer Suite, Manage Project. There's also a button here in the button bar. It'll do the same job. And what that does is it opens up project management. Now what we'll do here is, for the purposes of what we're doing, I will create a new module just to show you what we would do. So I'll click here for new project. It's very easy to forget to select what information you want, this stuff over here. So I would suggest that before you put a name in or anything, you go over and you decide what you want in your module. So NPCs, images and tokens. You'll see most other things are disabled, but spells here is enabled because that's what I'm working on at the moment. So those three things for the moment, because it's only NPC Engineer that I'm demonstrating. So module title, give it a very unoriginal title. Category, bestiary or supplement or something like that. In Fantasy Grounds, the library is sorted under headings, so whatever you call it here, the category here will be what you get it sorted as in Fantasy Grounds. Supplement is good. Bestiary, if you're going to have a couple of these kicking about, is quite good as well. Module file name will automatically track the module title unless there's any characters in it that shouldn't be there. Some characters obviously won't work in Windows, so it only really matters to you if your module title has got some odd characters in it, like, you know, a / or question mark, asterisk, the sort of things that are used as wildcards in Windows. Usually exactly the same as the module title is fine. GM only, that comes down to if you want your players to see what you're doing. It's a bestiary, so probably it should be GM only. Lock records, I would suggest that you leave them unlocked so that you can edit these files in Fantasy Grounds itself. Also, if you want spell information to be pulled in, the record has to be unlocked. So just be aware of that. Module path should be automatically set. you can change that if you wish. There's a folder over here. If you click on that, you can select whatever folder you want. That's not what I wanted to happen.
Question.
Yes.
The audience has requested that you put a little bit more juice on your mic input.
Okay. I think actually I've got that as its maximum.
Okay. Carry on then.
I'll sit a bit forward, see if that helps any.
There you go.
Your Fantasy Grounds module path should be set. It just that gets picked up from the registry. If it's not right for some reason, or if you've got some sort of custom module folder going on, then again you can change that. Target parser you should leave as parse engineer. Initially it was set up to put output to parse and KP's parser as well, but they've sort of fallen by the wayside. I do need to go back and fix that. It will be there in a future update again. So that's you set up your module. You can put a little thumbnail in there. I'll just use that for the moment and save and close. Now you can see down here in the bottom left hand corner it's telling me that I have the project new one set up, so I know that I've got a project running. Now I set up NPC Engineer in the first place really for my own benefit, to try to import text that was saved elsewhere, save me having to type it all myself. So I'll look at that as the first part of the program, and then we'll look at entering information by hand separately. So if I go down here to import text, again it's not the only place you can do it. There's an import text button there and an import text there under options. So there's, depending on how you normally use programs, there are ways to do it. So we get that up. On the left hand side is where you're going to have text appear. The right hand side will give a rough facsimile of what the final box will look like. Down here you get to select a variety of input sources. If it's coming from PDF or many places in the web, just leave it as the default one, see if it works. If it's from somewhere specific like D&D Beyond, you can choose the appropriate input filter and it will just help you get to where you're going. The most recent one here was the Hero Labs one. I just added that the other week. A few people had asked for that, so I eventually managed to get help to find the proper outputs from Hero Labs so that I could work that. But for now I'll do a D&D Beyond one. I've got one all set up. So over here on the D&D Beyond website, I've gone for a skeleton swordsman because, let's face it, who doesn't like skeletons? Now, D&D Beyond is constantly evolving, and one of their more recent changes is that they've made the NPC name a clickable link, so it's very hard to select it, so you have to be careful where you're clicking. If you want to select it, you can click out left and do it, or you can start at the end and work back. Let's scroll down. So there we go, we can just select all of that, copy it using Control-C. Over here and append clipboard. Control-V works just as well. And there you can see that the start block has populated itself to the right. Now, before you actually hit import and return, it is well worth scrolling through here, making sure you're happy with everything that you see, because you can sort out some of the problems here rather than in the main program once the data's all been chopped up and put to particular variables. There's two things, and I chose this particular NPC specifically to show a couple of issues. You see here in the dual wielder paragraph, it's got bullets, so they've not copied over properly, and also multi-attack is in the wrong place. It's out here as part of traits instead of in actions where it should be. So we can change both of those things over here in the left hand side. Look back up, so there's multi-attack. What we'll do is I will just cut that out, scroll down to where it says actions, and add that back in down there, and that means it should be in the right place now. If I go back up to dual wielder, we see the wee bullet points here, and what we'll do is just make little changes. Oops. There, like so. And you see these are reflected instantly over on the right hand side. You can see the dual wielder has now got the bullet points listed, and multi-attack is now down in actions where it should be. So with everything looking the way I want it, I can go to import and return. And that is pretty much it. At that point, you should be looking at that thinking, yep, that's what I want. Now there may be one or two things that we want to add to this. You'll see at the bottom, doesn't yet have any description. So we go to the description tab, back to D&D Beyond. There's a little bit of a description down the bottom there, which we can take across. Now people sometimes ask, couldn't we just do this in a single process? The answer is no, because there's no set way to end a stats block, so there's no way for NPC Engineer to always know that the description is starting. So it's something you have to do as a separate action, unfortunately. But I would still think that 2 cut and pastes are better than typing up the whole shebang on your own. So over here we can see we've now got the information down there. There's various things that you can do. You can make text bold, make it italic, you can underline it, put all those things off. You can make a paragraph chat frame. Now if I go over here and scroll down, you'll see what I mean. So that's what you'll get in Fantasy Grounds. Now I'll leave it like that so that we can see what it's like in Fantasy Grounds later on. A good idea to add an image here while we're at the description. So if we click here, and I've got an image saved in my downloads. Doesn't matter what the image's name is, it will be renamed by NPC Engineer during this process. So it's only a small representation of it. It's a bigger image than that, and again you'll see how big when we get into Fantasy Grounds. Back in the base stats tab, I can add a token as well. Now I prepared a token earlier on using a website, so cheated a little bit. There's only one other thing that you might want to do at this point, and that is click on the list options. And within here there's a couple of options that you can be playing with. There's different terrain types, so you can have your creatures sorted by where you're likely to find them. This skeleton I think is going to be subterranean. And what sort of mythology you might find your creature in. So for my skeleton it'll be fantasy. And this just gives you further sorting options in Fantasy Grounds. So again you'll see that when I open up Fantasy Grounds. You can close that. You don't have to save the NPC, but I like to do it just in case. It saves the NPC in the default directory for NPCs with the name you've given it up here in NPC name. So it means you don't have to mess about with file boxes, so it's nice and quick. At this point we need to add it to the project. And that's it, ready to go. What we'll do next is we'll do what used to be called parsing. I think I've changed the name to just create module. It seems to make more sense because that's what it's doing. It's creating a module for Fantasy Grounds. So there, the little dragon head, or where is it? Create module there in options as well. So it's whatever you prefer. So it comes up with a wee sort of a list of what it's been doing. There's only one creature in it, so it did it very, very quickly. And then if I run Fantasy Grounds, I should have a module available to me called New One with that creature in it. I thought for a second Fantasy Grounds wasn't going to load for me. Now Fantasy Grounds can take a little bit of time, so this might be a decent time to answer a question or two, if there are any. No. Okay. One of these days Fantasy Grounds will load up. There we go. So if you click on the library, so I've got Baleful Beastery loaded there already. I'll just unload and reload to make sure it's got the most recent information. Oh sorry, Baleful Beastery is my other one. I'll unload that altogether just now. We'll go and find New One in this list. There's New One, and you'll maybe remember the little image that I added there. So I've loaded that. Click on that, NPCs, and you'll see the usual sorts there: alphabetical index, challenge rating index, and class index, plus the two other ones that we added, mythology and terrain type. And it's just other ways of sorting, as I said. So Skeleton Swordman's in there, and you see all its information as you would expect. It's got a token there, and on the other tab you see that the text that I had, remember I put in a chat frame, and there it is there now. Obviously you can just click on chat and that immediately appears over here. Now that sort of box is useful for a description that you want your players to read. See there's a link here for the image, click on that and it comes up. It's not a huge picture, but it will do to give the idea. Now obviously you don't need to create module just every time you do a creature. What you do is you keep adding them to NPC Engineer using Add to Project, and once you've got several you can click on it. Now if I open up my usual one, so let's load project Baleful Beastery.
Question.
Yes.
Could you please go back over the GM view and the lock?
Yes, absolutely, I can do that. Let's open up. So these two affect what happens to your creatures inside of Fantasy Grounds itself. I'll deal with the GM view only one. It actually has quite a profound effect on what goes on. If it's selected, as it is just now, it will create a db.xml file, and Fantasy Grounds reads that as being readable only by the GM unless you explicitly share it with your players. If you unclick it, then the file created is common.xml and it's viewed by Fantasy Grounds as explicitly shareable data, and so it will be available to everyone as soon as you load that module. So a simplistic thing, when it's like that, it's like the player's handbook. When it's like that, it's like the monster manual or dungeon master's guide. So that would be the GM view only. I would suggest that you want to keep your creatures hidden from your players. You don't want them looking up all the sort of sneak attacks and so on that you've lovingly added to your creatures, so keep it as GM view only. For the lock records, some people like to lock down the records so that no editing can be done within Fantasy Grounds. I would suggest that you don't want to do that. There are a couple of reasons. The first reason is that you probably don't want to be working with your master NPC in your module. The best thing to do is drag over a copy of it and work on that, and so you have to have it unlocked to do that. But the other reason is that when you open up a bestiary, or when you open up a creature, then any spells that it has to get are added to its record at that point, but only if it's unlocked. If you lock it, the spells won't be added to it, and that's true for the new feature just added about the NPC spells available and spells used table. It will only be added to your NPC if it's unlocked. Is there anything else about that before I move on? Understand
I think it's good.
Yeah, it's quite a confusing little thing. It actually took a long time to get these two working so that the bestiary works properly in Fantasy Grounds. Okay, so a couple of things, just sort of general things while I've got my Baleful Bestiary project loaded up. First thing is the viewport over here is now themable, so you see this, it looks like parchment here and it's nice, it looks like a standard spell block, stat block. You can go over to options, viewport theme, and there's a couple of other ones here. The frost one I think is quite nice. Now this is just purely eye candy, this doesn't affect anything in Fantasy Grounds, it's just what you prefer looking at as you're creating your NPCs and your bestiaries. So obviously the ice I thought about is, you know, a bit more in the Storm King's Thunder theme, and the jungle, the most recent one. It's not wonderful, but you can see I'm not an artist, but it certainly gives you some other options. In the next version that comes out, there's one that I think I call Blood, and it's black and red, as you can probably guess. I'm open to suggestions for those because I'm certainly not an artist. So I'll go back to the main one for now. Once you have several creatures added to your project, it can sometimes be that you haven't saved it and you want to get back into it. Now, working in Parse, there was no real way to do that. So what we can do is click on Options, and we can manage the NPC's JSON. Now JSON is just a particular type of file. Programmers will know about it. You don't need to worry about it, it's just the way that the files are saved. So if you manage your NPCs, this little box comes up. You can scroll through until you find one that you think, yep, I want to edit that. If you want to delete it from it, again, there's the delete button there. So there's just a little bit of information there to, you know, so that you know you've got the right thing. Then you can hit edit, and it pulls all your information up into here. ready to be edited. I'll pause for a wee second in case anyone wants to ask anything about that.
I think that looks good.
Yeah, we okay. Right, so we've looked at some of the main parts of what NPC Engineer can do. Now obviously some people are coming to NPC Engineer with NPCs like scribbled out in bits of paper, and what they want to do is add it from scratch. So if I just quickly flick through the tabs and mention a couple of little sort of hidden features, I guess you would call them, they're not immediately obvious. So I would hope that everything is self-explanatory via the text on screen and the mouse over. The mouse over text disappears fairly quickly, so that it's not obliterating anything on screen, but you'll notice, no, I don't think I'm going to get my mouse over to it, but you'll notice down on the status bar the text for the box stays while you're hanging over it. So even though the mouse, the tooltip disappears, the text is still down there. You can have a wee look and see. So you would fill in the name. Let's go for Maasq. Now I'll give Maasq his full title. One of my favourite characters in role-playing games. He's always a dwarf, he's always a paladin. Gender doesn't affect what happens in Fantasy Grounds. What it affects is bits of text that you're going to apply later on. So instead of saying Maasq raises its hammer, it will say Maasq raises his hammer. Now Maasq is unique, it's an NPC, so I would add that. That will capitalise his name, and this one, proper name, what that does is, folks, can you give me just 2 seconds please? Hold on, I'm going to pause just for a second. What is it?
Okay.
Get it done then. Get up. Sorry about that, folks. Real life intruding.
Yep.
So back we go to Maasq Hammerheart. So if you click both unique and name, what it will do is, rather than saying Maasq Hammerheart every time, it will just say Maasq, and it will capitalise the M in Maasq. If you don't have these selected, then it would have all of Maasq Hammerheart, and it would be lowercase because it's not a unique creature. It's expecting something like orc or skeleton. This row, I think people quite often miss that and then wonder why their text isn't saying exactly what they want. So there's 3 settings, you can play about with them, you see what difference it makes, and I'll show where that might affect later on as we work our way through. Size, usual, you can choose type, humanoid, particular type of humanoid, he's a dwarf usually. Alignment, lawful good. I'm maybe going through these too quickly, but you can see that it's the usual things you would expect in a drop down menu. Armour class you can type in and add in why his armour class is 12. Only the number matters as far as Fantasy Grounds go, but obviously most creatures have this as part of the stat block, so it's up to you if you add it. It's just flavour text. Hit points, you can type it out. 1d10 plus or whatever. To be honest, you're probably better double clicking in this box. Opens up a smaller edit hit dice and type it in. That way it's going to give you exactly what you're wanting. You can calculate the mean here. So the mean value of 1d10 plus 3 is 8. That's the way that most of the stat blocks, in fact I think all of the stat blocks in the monster manual are set up. But if you're a bit old school and you prefer rolling hit dice, then it'll do that for you as well. And obviously if you're old school and you're like me, you'll roll it 4 or 5 times to get the number you want anyway. You're doing as well typing it. However, so it does that. So the mean and roll are for setting these. Speeds and hover for fly if you wish. The little spinners to put them up or down, and you can see those adding live over on the right hand side. You'll see that pretty much as soon as I add anything on the left hand side, it's reflected in the stat block on the right hand side. Ability scores, big one. As you put them up, the bonuses appear there. They also appear in brackets over here. If you want your saving throws to reflect your ability scores bonuses, double clicking the word saving throws. I'll do that for you. That's not the way that stat blocks seem to work for monsters, so that's why it's not a set feature, but some people ask for that, so it's there, hidden away. Double click on saving throws. Your passive perception, I recently changed that. You can set it if you wish, but it will take the value from the wisdom. Okay, you can see that as the wisdom goes up, but you can override that if you wish. There'd be no reason to. It also takes into account the perception skill, which you'll see on the skills tab later on. So the perception is calculated for you. You can override it using these, but just be aware that if you override it and then do something with the wisdom, then it changes it again. Challenge rating, you select and it'll give the experience that's matched up to that. Again, you can override the experience if you wish, but I don't think there's any real reason to do that. Damage modifiers, this is where, you know, is Maasq vulnerable to fire? Let's say he's got a particularly flammable beard. Damage resistances, psychic, and the usual sort of things that you might see in a stat block, resistance to non-magical weapons and so on. Down here we'll say that he's immune to non-magical weapons that aren't silvered. For bludgeoning. Okay, and you can see that's reflected over here. Now, just be aware that it is possible for you to select a set of tick boxes that are incompatible with each other or that make your creature unhittable. I don't have extensive checking in to do that. It's just something that as the user you should be aware of. Okay. Same with condition immunities down here. You've petrified and invisible, so that means that you can't be affected by these conditions. And there's space to add another one. If anyone needs further condition immunities, you can let me know and I'll add more. Skills, so let's say Maasq is good with medicine and knows a bit of history. I can speak Dwarvish, Common, Infernal for some reason, and he spent some time with the Sphinx. And you see all of these things again updated instantly over there. Again, there's the other sorts of language that you might, I say language, other sort of text that you might find in a stat block. So NPC speaks no languages, speaks all languages, speaks the languages it knew in life if it's undead. There's also telepathy down here and its range. Traits. Here you can add a new trait name and a description of the trait. There's some traits in there already that you may wish to use, but you might look at that list and think, hang on, there's other traits that I would like to add there. So if I just quickly show you how this works, and then I'll show you how you can add further ones to that list. So let's say Maasq has got magic resistance. Now you'll see it's come up, it's not ideal, the Maasq hammer heart. That will be something to do with how I've got it set in base stats. Let me go back. Yeah, I want Maasq to be unique and have a name, so let me go back to my traits. I'll select that again, and you see it's now shortened it to Maasq. I'll add that trait to my list, and you'll see it now appears over here on the right hand side as well. If at any point you want to edit it, there's a wee edit box for each of them there, and that will just throw it back down to be edited. Now I said of those 5 you're likely to want to be adding more. You can do that up in the options menu, options, manage traits, and this I think gets a little bit complex in what you can do. Now obviously we give the trait a name, so let's say Maasq has got a new a trait that's not anywhere in that list. So just make something up, stubborn fighter. Now the stubborn fighter will type it out the way we might want to type that out. Okay, now the problem with that as it sits is it's always going to say he. If we add that to our list, it's always going to say he. So if you have a female that you want to add stubborn fighter to, that will look wrong. So what I've done here is I've added the ability to put in some things. So you right click, you get a little menu up, and you can choose what you want. So NPC name, he, she, it, him, her, it, his, her, its, himself, herself, itself. So all the pronouns and the name. If we put in the NPC name capitalized, you see it, what it actually puts in is a code. Now over here there's a his. I don't want that there anymore, but I want to add in his, her, its. And again, that was a he. That's a he, she, it. Actually, I think I chose capitalised there. Wait a second. Yeah, body text. There we go. And I'll update that. So down here now, I've got my stubborn fighter. Now if I put that in, you can see it's already pulled in Maasq, it's pulled in his, capitalised because I made a mistake, and he is dense. If I just go back to the base stats, I'll change it to female, not a name, not unique, just so you see the difference when I do that. So this time I add stubborn fighter, and you see because it's not unique, small letters, and because it's not a proper name, it says the Maasq hammer heart can ignore all damage on her head as she is dense. So you can see it's filling things in automatically for you. So that means that you can reuse that stubborn fighter in as many critters as you want to. Okay, I'll pause there for a wee second just in case there are any questions about that feature.
Nope, I don't see any yet.
Okay. Onto innate casting and spell casting. Most of this should be fairly obvious what's going on. What I will say is you do have to click the little box to include the spell casting section. You can choose all the obvious things, and you can type in names of spells. So as you can see, I'm just typing in words. Now they obviously wouldn't be picked up in Fantasy Grounds, but if you type in the proper spell, so at will, I'll have them using magic missile and perhaps burning hands, and those would be picked up normally in Fantasy Grounds and fully populated as part of his spell list. And if it was a spellcasting section I was working on, it would also say how many slots they had. So you say 4 slots and Cure Wounds, for instance, and that would all show up in Fantasy Grounds. Add that there. And again, you can see everything's appearing in real time over here on the right. Now, you'll see it says the Maasq Hammerheart's innate spellcasting ability and so on. That's because I messed about back in the base stats, so I'll go back to that and change it again. So Maasq is male, unique name, and down there you'll see it's changed it now to just Maasq's innate, and Maasq is a something level spellcaster. Not finished adding that. We'll not go through it in painstaking detail. It should be fairly obvious what each thing is. Flavor text, you don't need to add it, it's just as it says, flavor text. The description page we've already looked at, showed that earlier on. It does various fixes, strips out new line codes in case you're bringing it from a PDF, and it can pick out titles. Now, let me think if I've not got something handy to show you that.
Got a question.
Okay, fire away.
Got 2. The first question is, how do you import the NPC monster into Fantasy Grounds? And this user really likes the program. Maybe we could address it at the end.
How to get it into Fantasy Grounds? Yeah, sure.
And we can cover the pitfalls and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then the next question is there or will there be a JSON file for spells? You want to address that at the end?
No, I'll address that just now. There's not mainly. Yeah, I can see why people might like that idea, but because of the complexity of these little boxes, adding things from, yeah, it wouldn't just be a simple drop down, because obviously, as well as Cure Wounds, you know, you've got a comma, and then you can add as many spells at that level as the creature has. So in that area, I'm afraid you do have to type it. There's not any easy way around that that I can see. The bigger picture about spells is there's going to be a separate module called Spell Engineer, as you see it's living up there. But that's for introducing new spells to Fantasy Grounds rather than adding spells to an NPC. So it's one of these things, if it's your own NPC, you do need to type the name of the spell, unfortunately. The other thing is there would be a real, there would be a copyright issue if I tried to distribute that particular JSON, and in fact anything from Wizards of the Coast's books. If I used copyright materials, I would be closed down faster than a thing that closed down very fast indeed. Okay. The Actions tab, a lot is going on in the Actions tab. It looks quite busy. There's actions in the top half, there's reactions, legendary actions and layer actions, so all of these things can be worked on within here. This really is a summary screen. What you'll want to do is you'll add actions and it'll open up a new window. Again, it looks very busy. If your creature's got multi-attack though, you just put that there. You can add your multi-attack text there. And update that, and you'll see that appears as the first the way it always does. It always first is multi-attack. Weapon attacks. Once you get into this box, it's less complex than it at first looks. There's some there already, and again I'll show you how to add your own to that list. Again, I can't add anything from the books. What I've done here is added some Gaelic equivalents. So I've got the clay, that's how it's pronounced, clay, and if I click on that, it populates everything. Now if you're looking at that thinking, well, I want to add several creatures that all use a longsword, then you want to know how to add a longsword to that list. So I'll show you that in a minute or two. You choose your type. Is it a melee weapon attack? Is it a ranged weapon attack? Is it both ranged and melee? Is it spell? Any bonus to hit? What reach has it got? Range. Now, most weapons will either have a reach or a range. Probably not both. Some will have both. Target type. Usually one target or one creature as well, so it's up to yourself what you want to choose there. You see some text check boxes up here for magic, silver, adamantine, cold forged iron. It's unlikely to be more than 2 of those. It can't be silver and cold forged iron or adamantine at the same time. I don't have any checking in that. If you decide to make it both silver and adamantine against all logic, then well, you have to deal with that in fantasy grounds. So there's damage there. You can choose your damage type. And for the weapons that have a bonus damage, so they'll do 2d6 say of slashing damage and also a d4 of fire damage. That's how you do that. If there's other text, I mean sometimes weapons have other text to them. You know, this could be a drain life effect, or if it's a, you know, some creatures have claw attacks that if they strike, then you subtract 1 from your constitution or whatever. So all that text would go in there. And then there are other actions, and again, just a couple in there, charm and teleport. Again, there's a way to add further ones to that list, but I can't really add them for you because wizards would be all over me. So if I close that window, I go back up to my options, and you'll see there's these other things. So manage weapons, manage actions, and these are the other 2 that I was talking about there. So manage actions, charm and teleport there, just so you can see how it works. So you can see charm has got these codes put in, so again it's right click and you get to put these codes in so that they will automatically populate properly for whatever your creature is. And the same idea for managed weapons. It's that complex looking box again. If I have I don't even know how to pronounce this one. It's a bow. So it's a ranged weapon attack. And you can see all the things that have auto-populated. There's nothing fancy about this box. There's no extra stuff to put in. It's just purely what you would have in the actions box. But you would be adding it to this drop-down menu so as it would be easy to select for multiple NPCs. Now, at this point, we've pretty much seen everything there is about adding information as far as NPCs go. So again, I'll repause just in case anyone wants to throw a question at me, and then I'll show a couple of other parts to the program.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the main tab where the base stats are,
yep.
When you click the creature tag, what is the benefit of that? When you're selecting the creature type?
feature type.
The tag?
Oh, the tag, that's just the bit that appears in brackets. There is no benefit to it. It's just what many NPCs have. You can leave that blank if you wish. You can just
Okay.
leave Maasq as humanoid, and that does fine. But you'll see quite often in a stat block it will say humanoid brackets bullywug or whatever.
Yeah, I was under the impression it added the racial abilities.
No, no, it does nothing of that sort. It's purely flavour.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see, are there any other things that we would want to talk about? Well, you may...
Well,
Oh, on you go.
I was going to say, are you still demonstrating, or can we go to questions, or?
If there are questions, I'll deal with the questions. What I'm going to talk about now are just that's the core functionality. What I'm going to talk about are the other things, the more sort of side things that the program can do for you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions just now?
Well, I'm going to wait till the end, but we're going to talk about importing text.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just keep going just now then.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So quite often I think people like the idea of creating a module both on paper or a PDF copy and creating these NPCs to throw into Fantasy Grounds. So we've seen the Fantasy Grounds part, but if you hit this copy stat block button and then I open up Word, I find Word, and then I hit paste, you can see we get, it's not perfect, it's an RTF version, so it's not got the little arrows in the same way, but it gives you a copy of your stat block spaced to fit perfectly a 2-column layout, okay, with smaller margins than this is giving us. So that's a wee feature that I like. Maybe I just put it in there for my own use for when I'm writing modules, but I'm sure other people will like it as well. Now that's not a picture, that's fully editable text. So if you're in Word, you can do what you want with it. You can delete whole chunks of text if you want. And in fact you can probably resize it as well. Yeah, you can. So it gives you what you want.
Got a question?
Yep.
Back in the section where you're adding traits and weapon attacks.
Yep.
What were your options there for the creature or target types, like multiple targets?
For the weapons, it's only one target and one creature.
Okay.
I don't know of any weapons that can target more than one creature.
Okay.
I'm willing to be corrected in that, and certainly I can add more target types if they're necessary. But these aren't spell attacks, these are weapon attacks.
Okay. And what about the special abilities or the traits, I believe it was, or actions?
In the general actions, it's just a name and then you type. There's really not anything special about actions. They don't. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That clears that up.
Okay. Let's see, is there anything else in the file menu? Yep, there's various ways you can save this. You can save it as text and XML. I've not looked at these in a while, so it may be that they don't have all the information, so you can let me know. Save as HTML will give you pretty much what you can see on the right hand side there. So if you need it for HTML for anything, that's the way to go. You can also save it as RTF. The Engineer Suite, this is hopefully going to grow. There's only Manage Project and Spell Engineer just now. Spell Engineer, very limited. There's very little to it at the moment. but it's a work in progress. It's actually gone beyond what I showed you there, but on the release version of NPC Engineer, that's all you get at the moment. The directories menu, I quite like it. I was forever trying to find where my data files were. Then I realised, well, why not just get the program to do it for me? So you can view your app data program, directory. So that shows you all your inis and JSONs. You can look at your projects folder. NPCs folder, and you can see mine's quite full there. It's worth mentioning the NPCs folder, the default option is to create the NPC with the name that you've given it and match that up with an image and a token that have the same name. So NPC Engineer is basically pulling all your stuff together. You don't need to put it in that folder. The program will do it for you. So you might have your images scattered all over your hard drive, you know, in the downloads folder and your pictures folder. NPC Engineer will gather them here, ready for the parsing process.
Got a question?
Yep.
Would it behoove you to create the images and the tokens prior to creating a bestiary?
Yeah, I would suggest that. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be halfway through building it and then say, okay, I need to go to another program to get the image. So, and that's something that, you know, NPC Engineer can't do for you, unfortunately. So you do need to get your images and your tokens ready beforehand. But if you're importing, then what we'll say is, and I think what you've found, Lauren, is that now the time consuming part of it is preparing your images and tokens. So that's not a long period of time, you know, you're maybe looking at, you know, a minute per NPC, whereas before it was the half hour that it took you to type up the NPC that was the big problem. The images were the easy part. So yeah, you have to get your images yourself, just anywhere you want in your drive, and then when you click on the little boxes down here, you'll go and find them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The information, there's about NPC Engineer and check for updates. In the newest version, there's also a link to check what updates there have been. So this will check on the website and it will come back and tell you that in this case there is a new version available, so I'll not go and download it just now. And also, as I say, in the newer version you can click on the link and it will tell you what the various improvements are in that particular version.
Great.
Now, one of the questions was how to get the information into Fantasy Grounds.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's this little dragon head here, create module. Now, hold on a wee second. I don't need anything there just now. So create module by clicking there, or options, create module, or just Control P if you're a keyboard person. So you do that, and that happens. Now you can see there's far more creatures for me, so you see it builds up the file. So it adds, first of all, adds all the images, then it adds all the tokens.
So I had a question about this parsing section.
Yep.
If a user were to add some information that didn't parse correctly, what do we need to look for when we're going through that?
That's a good question. In the main, what will happen, to be honest, for the main part of the program, you're unlikely to do something that will stop it parsing. One thing that someone noticed that I'm going to be trying to update over this weekend is if you put in a nickname, so say you put in Maasq, and then you do that, you know, the sort of standard criminal middle name sort of thing. those little quote marks will cause the program to choke. I'm going to work on
Okay.
that over the weekend and hopefully fix that. Other than that, almost everything that you enter in these boxes will be formatted for you for the parsing, so you don't need to, it's not like working with parse where you had to worry about the placement of colons and semicolons. The program does all that for you in the background.
That's nice.
It's also got a whole section of things that it checks for. So it will check, for instance, if you've missed the full stop after the FT for 30 feet, and it'll add one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll do those sort of things automatically. It's one of these things, if things are cropping up, if people see things that are happening over and over, I'm happy to add that as an automatic fix.
So I have a statement to make
Yep.
regarding the importation part.
Yeah.
What's some good advice that we can give users before you end the stream here as far as importing? Are you still showing features now, or are we at that point?
Yeah, I'll get back to that in a wee second. I was just going to say about the description tab, this is the
Okay.
place, strangely enough, this is the place where it's most likely to fall over. So if you get into Fantasy Grounds and it says something about the XML not being formed correctly, or something about an end tag missing, it's to do with your description. Now, that's not to say you've done something wrong, that's to say the program, or you have managed to find something that the program has done wrong. Just let me know about it in the Discord and I'll work on it to fix it. But if you need that particular creature for that night's game, for instance, you would go back into the description and just see if there was anything that wasn't, you know, that you could change. Worst case scenario, get rid of all the formatting and just leave it as plain text in the description. Okay, so import text. Yeah, the importing of text. Now, this is the area where you're most likely to have issues, I guess, because if you go to a PDF and, for instance, something that cropped up and caused a problem was the vast majority of sources follow the Wizards of the Coast format, but there was one source that didn't say armor class, it said AC, and at that time I didn't even think that a source would do that, so the program didn't check for AC, so it fell over. So little things like that can cause problems, so watch out for those. One area that the program really needs is this part here, the challenge and X something XP in brackets. That is what it uses as the end point of the top part of the stat block. So again, an issue that we came across with some sources was it said challenge brackets and then just a number, 12,000. Because it didn't say 12,000 XP, NPC Engineer got confused. It's a very easy fix when you know it's there. All you need to do is type in XP, and that's something that I would say to watch out for. If you can't get it to work with any of the input things, look for little things like that.
Question.
Yeah.
If those are reversed, does that still break it?
So if the XP comes first, then challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or anything in a different order.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what this is, what it's aimed at is importing stat blocks. If you're trying to import something, let's say the Frog God games mini stat blocks, you can't do that. Unfortunately, you just have to flesh that out yourself bit by bit. I tried working with the guys at Frog God, but there was no way to inflate it automatically, unfortunately. I know people sometimes think that you should be able to just, you know, pull out armor class and so on, but because there's no end point to a lot of these fields, it's actually quite difficult. And where it gets really difficult is in the traits, because the traits have all different names, you know, so that it's not like a fixed name for a trait. It could be called, I don't know, drunken behaviour, or, you know, one-eyed Jack or something. It could be called anything. So there's no way to check for it. So yeah, things have to come in the right order. Okay. If you're taking it from another source and things look horrible, mess about with semicolons and colons, mess about with different importers. Worst case scenario, come and talk to me on Discord. Quite often it's easy enough for, you know, because I've been doing a lot of these, I can spot them quite quickly and tell you what the problem is.
Yeah, I think once you get used to what you're looking for, and maybe even print up a simple stat block and just tape it to your monitor, and you'll know exactly what to look for when you're importing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's actually on the website, there's a sort of, people kept asking what is my format, and as I said, it's not my format, it's Wizard's format. But on the website you'll find, in fact I'll show you that, I'll just go to the, where is it?
Actually, the header that you have to the right, or the preview copy,
Yeah.
Is that the correct format right there without anything in it?
Yeah. That's what we're looking for.
All right. So if you had a copy of that and pointed to some of those sections there, maybe as at the end of a manual, we could put in a, what to look for type thing or something.
That's true, yeah. Well, when I eventually get around to updating the manual,
I'll
yeah,
do a troubleshooting section or something.
yeah, just do one of those and add it in. So that's what it's looking for, that format. Okay, and I'll just change this again because I like eye candy. Oh, didn't work. It didn't work. I've managed to break my own program. 2 seconds, I'm going to reload it.
So yeah, the importing is the tricky part. There's ways to deal with that. If you use another text editor to look for your problem before you import it.
Yeah, where, I mean, if I get up the import box again, where, that's just a, hold on, to the old text. Where you have a block of text over here on the left hand side and you start editing it, you start trying to edit it, what happens is every time you make an edit, it tries to parse it on the right hand side, so it can be a slow process. So if you've got something that's not importing perfectly first time, it's much better to throw up Notepad++ is great for this. Let's just, so you would just copy and paste into this, and then you can sometimes see issues. Again, one strange issue that I ran across, I think it was you actually, Lauren, that brought it up, or Rob. There was one that wasn't copying correctly from a PDF, and it was far from obvious what the problem was. And when we pasted it into Notepad++, what showed up was that it wasn't a dash they were using, it was some weird Unicode character.
Hyphen or something.
Yeah, for the hyphen. So it was like a huge number, it was Unicode 128,000 or something. And it's not the sort of thing that we would ever have spotted visually, it was only seeing it in Notepad that helped out there. So Notepad++ is a useful little sort of side tool to help out if you're having trouble importing creatures. But I would suggest that most things from reputable sources will scan beautifully, or not scan beautifully, will import beautifully. The one thing you have to remember is that if you've got a bad scan, it's going to go bad when you try to import it here as well. There'll be spaces between letters and words. It'll misread letters. It's optical character recognition. It's not NPC Engineer that's the problem there, it's the PDF in the first place.
Yeah. I've seen some crazy stuff, and that's definitely an issue.
Yeah. So that would be me. Do you want to see a couple of things that are coming up?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So let me close that. So the first thing, I've been working in NPC Engineer today, and one thing that was asked for was in the description that we allowed bulleting. So if I just load up an NPC, I like my algorithm, I use it all the time. And I just drag over the first 3 paragraphs, don't even need to select the whole paragraph. And then I click on this little button here that's new. What it does is it formats it as bullets. You can see more clearly down here what it's doing over on the right hand side. So bulleted lists are a thing, people want to use them. So that's it. So that will be live in the next update. There was a little issue in what it was putting out. So it's not fully ready to go, but I mean, it'll be finished tonight. And again, if anybody wants more things added to here other than the obvious headings, body text, speech, and bulleted list, if there's anything else that we need in there, just let me know and I can add a new button and a new thing.
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
There's 2 things. Can you show us the formatting for the text box?
See that
Let's
again,
just
sorry?
say you wanted to, how does that work?
In here?
Yeah, like the text bubble. Just select something.
Oh yeah,
that you're
yeah. Any paragraph or paragraphs that are selected. So let's say this bottom one. I can select the whole thing if I want, but to be honest, it's a paragraph thing. So as long as the caret is in the paragraph anywhere, and we click on that. Visually, I would really like a box around this, but this particular control doesn't allow for it. So what I did was I made the text look different. I changed the margins.
Perfect.
Right over here, it gives a better idea of what's going to go on. So you're going to get your little speech bubble, and it's going to be in a box. That's what it will look like in Fantasy Grounds. If you add a second paragraph to that, you might think,
break it.
Yeah, that you'd think that could break it, but I saw it breaking often enough that I fixed it. It now just does it as a single one.
So can we do multiple single boxes? Is
Yep.
that what you're saying?
Yep, you can do that further up. So now you could have multiple single boxes.
Can you load your an NPC you have created that has a spell list added? I want people to see that table. It's really nice.
Oh yeah, hold on.
The table view. So if you have an NPC you can load and show us, that'd be great.
Down there, that one?
Something that has spells. Yeah, that down on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yep. So some people like that on the other tab as well. So yeah, so that's why I added that. So it's just yeah, you can include that. And all these things are individually selectable. You don't have to have descriptive text at all. You don't need an image link, but these are things that are in there by default. So there's a lot of things you can do in here that, now what I'll do is I will add that to my project as it is just now. No, I won't, because this is a new version of the program that was causing me a crash earlier on.
Right.
I'll come back to that. I'll do it in the other version in a wee second. So that's coming. The other thing that's coming is obviously Spell Engineer I mentioned. So at some point soon, the Engineer Suite is going to come out, where you've got your project. We've got NPC Engineer obviously, and then you'll have Spell Engineer, and you can see there's not an awful lot to that yet, but you can see what's happening there. It's on its way.
Nice.
And again, that takes note of what project you're working on. And so eventually when you hit parse or hit create module, it will do NPCs, it will do spells, and it will do anything else that I've added at that point. My goal someday obviously is to have lots and lots of these little icons all over the screen, and when you hit parse, it will produce everything, absolutely everything that you need for a module.
That's great.
Yeah, that's my eventual goal. So I said what I would do is I'll load up my algorithm. And I will add his spell list. And I'll do a couple of little separate chat boxes.
There's a couple things I wanted to mention. The add a image link. Now I notice if you're not paying attention when you're creating your monster, if you don't provide the photo, it's going to break the link.
Does it? I wasn't aware that it did
Well,
that.
it doesn't really break it, but when you're in Fantasy Grounds and you want it to have that link, but you're not providing the photo, it messes it up, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the bit you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's just a hint, like don't select that if you don't have your photos figured out.
Yeah. If you don't want images, make sure that you don't click images. Yeah. So I'll create a module here, and then I'll go back to Fantasy Grounds and show you that one.
Yeah, so you're going to show us the preview window of what it looks like when it's parsed fully.
Yep. So that's it. It should be parsed, and we'll just get to it. So we'll close that down while Fantasy Grounds is opening up, and it takes ages to load. So if there's any questions, fire away.
Yeah, Rob said it opens a new blank image.
Yeah,
It
opens a blank box. Yeah.
That's a user error. That's not a error of the software.
Yeah. So that was that new one. I'll get rid of that. We want baleful restrict. Oh, for goodness sake. Okay.
Yep.
It happens. Yep. Let's pretend it didn't, and I'll not bother going back. Yeah. Maybe now's the time to end for tonight anyway. Any further questions?
No. Anybody in the group? One question. Will there ever be a PC engineer?
Yeah, probably. It's because it's not an immediate part of the parsing process. It's not really been in my head. But if it's something that a lot of people want, then that, for instance, that might be more important to people than being able to parse in objects. So yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Well, since you're part of the community and you have your own project, there is an individual I'd like you to meet that's kind of doing that very same thing.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can team up with him and work something out. He's also got a pretty good programming background.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good.
It's something. Yeah. And I'll get you details more later.
Okay. So, any other questions just now?
Any questions? Comments? All right, so you guys see this NPC Engineer project. This is Maasq here. He's a member of FGC when he can. He has his own Discord. I'd encourage you guys to support him and to follow his work. And I'm going to link his websites and all his socials in the chat, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay, that sounds grand.
There you go. There's all the links, people. If you want to follow his work or connect with him or donate or anything like that or be a part of the development, this is where you go.
Yeah, the Discord is very active, so if any of you want to come there and have a chat, if you want to, we can screen share and I can show you anything that you've not fully picked up or anything that I've not explained well enough. Because best will in the world, I'm just talking to a computer screen here just now, really. It's easy to make mistakes. So if anyone wants to talk one-to-one, we can screen share. So yeah, I'm open with that. And there's plenty of other users who will give advice and say what issues they've had. And if you've got any suggestions for features, feel free.
Just remember the time zone. He's over in the UK, so if you want to get a hold of him, get up early.
Yep. Okay, if there's no more questions, I will wrap it up now. Okay, thanks for joining in, folks. Thanks for the questions and thanks for watching. And hopefully I can talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.